You do not need a car payment. You need a cheap Japanese car that starts, sips fuel, and stays reliable without dealer drama. These 8 picks are ugly, slower, and ignored because buyers chase badges. Stick around, because number 1 is the tiny hatch mechanics respect before shoppers realize why it matters under $5,000. Number 8. Suzuki SX4 All-Wheel Drive, 2007 to 2009. This Suzuki is the forgotten little all-wheel drive car people laugh at, and that is exactly why it belongs here. We want the 2007 to 2009 SX4 crossover with all-wheel drive, stock height, normal tires, and no rust belt horror story underneath. It uses a 2-liter 4-cylinder with 143 horsepower, either a 5-speed manual or 4-speed automatic, and a simple all-wheel drive system that makes it useful in snow without turning it into a big, thirsty SUV. People skip it because Suzuki left the American car market. The styling looks odder than a Corolla. The fuel mileage is not amazing for a small hatch, and everybody assumes parts are impossible. That last part needs honest balance. Dealer support is not Toyota or Honda easy, but brakes, filters, bearings, suspension pieces, sensors, and common wear parts are still out there through parts stores and online suppliers. You may search harder. You do not panic. Why does it last? No turbo, no luxury screens, no delicate hybrid system, and not enough power to abuse itself. In the shop, the good ones usually need ordinary work: brakes, struts, exhaust, fluids, tires, and wheel bearings. Under $5,000, this thing will not feel premium. Expect dents, cloudy headlights, interior rattles, worn seats, rusty bolts, and maybe a noisy hatch. It is a cheaper winter tool, not a silent luxury crossover. Known weak points are rust, wheel bearings, suspension wear, exhaust leaks, catalytic converter cost, and neglected driveline fluid. Crawl underneath for rust. Test all-wheel drive behavior on a safe, loose surface, and listen for bearing growl at highway speed. Change rear differential and transfer case fluids. Owners kill these by treating the back half like it does not need service. Here is the shop test I care about. After a cold start, let it idle, turn the wheel lock to lock, then drive slowly over rough pavement. A cheap Suzuki should not clank like a toolbox. Check the exhaust flange, the rear suspension arms, and the fuel tank straps, because winter cars collect salty, crusty, hidden trouble. Insurance is usually low because it is old, slow, and not a theft magnet, but call your company before buying. Cheap parts matter, but a rusty shell is still junk. The next one is smaller, lighter, and easier to fix, but people ignore it because it feels too cheap. If this straight cheap car talk helps you, subscribe. We show reliable beaters, costly traps, and simple checks before you waste payment money. Number 7. Mazda 2, 2011 to 2014. Forget speed, flash, and road presence, because the Mazda 2 wins by being smaller, lighter, and brutally simple. We like 2011 to 2014 sport or touring models with the 1.5-liter 4-cylinder and either a 5-speed manual or 4-speed automatic. The manual is the cleaner long-term play if you can drive stick, but a well-kept automatic is not something we throw away. This car only made around 100 horsepower, so nobody buys it to feel powerful. That is part of the value. Less weight means less tire cost, less brake cost, less strain, and fewer expensive systems waiting to fail. People ignore it because it feels tiny next to pickups. The cabin is basic, highway noise is louder, and Mazda badge trust is weaker than Toyota or Honda for budget shoppers. They also chase the Mazda 3 because it looks more grown up. Fine. That leaves the little 2 sitting cheaply. Under $5,000, do not expect a showroom car. Expect rock chips, stained cloth, faded plastic, tired shocks, buzzing trim, and a car that feels nervous when an 18-wheeler blows past. That is street reality. You are buying low cost, not comfort. Known weak points are suspension wear, engine mounts, clutch wear, wheel bearings, rust in harsh climates, cheap interior trim, and roughness from ignored mounts. The used price target is around $3,500 to $5,000 for higher-mile private party cars. Clean dealer examples often sit higher, so under 5 grand means you hunt, not scroll lazily for 5 minutes. Check clutch bite or automatic shift feel, listen for suspension noise over broken pavement, and inspect tire wear for alignment trouble. Also, run the air conditioning and watch the temperature at idle, because small cars cook fast when the cooling fans get weak. Keep coolant clean and motor mounts fresh. A tiny 4-cylinder feels rough, shaky, and tired fast when mounts collapse. If it drives straight, shifts clean, and has boring receipts, this little Mazda can be a stubborn commuter. One more street check, sit in it before you judge it from the curb. The seating is upright, the glass is wide, and parking is easy, which matters for older buyers who hate bulky cars. But it will not isolate noise, and it will not feel happy, loaded with 4 adults and luggage. Look for neglected oil changes, cracked tires, weak battery starts, and cheap brake pads. Low insurance usually comes from the small engine, low value, and boring image. That is the win. You are not buying status. You are buying survival. Do not chase perfection here. Chase a clean title, steady idle, dry engine, honest tires, and a seller who answers without dancing. The next car has Toyota bones, more room, and a badge that still confuses people. Number 6. Scion XD 2008 to 2012. Buried under the dead Scion badge is a small, simple Toyota-built hatchback that quietly saves money. The clean target is a 2008 to 2012 base hatchback, stock wheels, normal ride height, and records that do not look like a napkin from a gas station. Under the hood, it runs a 1.8-liter 4-cylinder with 128 horsepower, paired with either a 5-speed manual or a 4-speed automatic. That is not thrilling, but thrilling is not the point when you are shopping under 5 grand. This little car gets ignored because Scion disappeared. The shape is awkward, the ride is firm, and half the market does not realize it is Toyota family hardware. Good. Let them chase prettier cars. The XD lasts because it avoids the big budget killers. No turbo, no CVT, no luxury suspension, no giant screen, and no complicated all-wheel drive system. It is just a simple, lighter, practical commuter with cheap service parts and a drivetrain most shops understand. Street reality check, under $5,000, expect high miles, scratched bumpers, cloudy headlights, loud road noise, worn bolsters, and cheap tires. It is not plush, silent, or fancy. It is a grocery runner, work commuter, and cheap insurance play. Known weak points are water pump seepage, alternator age, suspension wear, tire grip complaints, road noise, and abused examples with bad lowering springs or goofy exhausts. I would inspect coolant leaks, tire wear, and any hacked suspension before talking price. Drive it over rough pavement. If it clunks, wanders, or chews tires, the low price gets less attractive fast. Test the manual clutch bite or the automatic shift feel when warm. A good XD should feel basic, steady, and honest, not shaky and neglected. Change coolant and transmission fluid early. Small Toyota cars live longer when fluids are treated like protection, not decoration. One more thing, do not overpay just because it has Toyota blood. The under 5 grand XD should have cosmetic bruises, not mechanical secrets. A dented bumper is fine. A hot running engine, wet carpet, or warning light is not. Check the spare tire well for moisture, because hatchbacks can hide leaks. Look at the brake pedal, steering wheel shine, and driver seat edge, because those tell a truer mileage story than the seller sometimes does. Low insurance usually comes from the small engine, low value, and boring image, and that is a real win for a buyer trying to stay payment-free. If the owner has factory wheels, normal tires, and old receipts in the glove box, that is the kind of boring story we like. The next car is even cheaper, even uglier, and somehow even more honest. Number 5. Toyota Echo, 2003 to 2005. Park one beside almost anything modern, and the Echo looks weird, tiny, and almost laughable. But that is the secret. The best target is a 2003 to 2005 Echo sedan. preferably a manual if your left knee still likes work. But a clean automatic is fine. It uses a 1.5-liter four-cylinder with a 5-speed manual or 4-speed automatic, and it was built around cheap fuel use, low weight, and simple parts. Nobody wants to brag about an Echo. That is the discount. Buyers skip it because the styling is weird, the cabin is basic, power is modest, and many people forgot it even existed. But from a garage view, that is exactly why it makes sense. The engine is not working hard, the tires are small, the brakes are cheap, insurance is usually calmer, and there is no turbo or fancy electronics waiting to punish you. Street reality check. Under $5,000. Do not expect dignity. Expect faded paint, missing hubcaps, road noise, crank window energy, stained cloth, and maybe a smell that says old coffee lived there for years. This is transportation, not comfort. Known weak points are rust, worn suspension, weak air conditioning, tired engine mounts, clutch wear, belt noise, oil seepage, and neglected cooling systems. Look underneath for rust first, because rust kills cheap cars faster than miles. Then test the air conditioning and heat, because owners love to say it just needs a charge. Last, feel the clutch or automatic shift quality, because drivetrain neglect ruins the whole cheap car plan. On the test drive, let it reach highway speed. It will not feel powerful, but it should track. Straight, idle smooth, and stay cool. Watch the temperature gauge during a long idle with the air conditioning on. If it creeps upward, walk away. Keep coolant fresh and fix belt noise early. A simple Toyota engine can run a long time, but overheating still turns it into junk. The Echo also teaches a good lesson about small cars. Slow does not mean weak. Slow often means the engine never had enough power to destroy itself. Check the exhaust for leaks, the rear brake hardware for rust, and the front struts for bounce. If the steering wheel shakes at highway speed, expect tires, alignment, or worn front parts. Do not ignore old rubber either. Cheap tires with cracked sidewalls make a light car feel nervous and unsafe. If you find one with manual windows, basic seats, and a folder of oil change receipts, do not laugh. That is the kind of owner who usually keeps the little Toyota alive. The Echo wins because it asks for very little and gives back reliable miles. Now we move to the car. People know is good, but the manual version is where the cheap car magic lives. Subscribe if you want smarter under $5,000 picks without dealership smoke. We compare price, repairs, insurance, and real ownership before you buy. Number 4. Honda Civic, 2006 to 2009, 1.8 manual. Finding a cheap Civic is harder than it used to be, but the right manual car is still worth chasing. It becomes cheaper when you find the right setup with ugly paint, high miles, and a manual transmission that most lazy shoppers avoid. We want the 2006 to 2009 Civic DX, LX, or EX with the 1.8-liter R, 18 four-cylinder, and a 5-speed manual. Skip SI pricing, avoid mystery automatics, and do not touch anything with overheating history. Clean Civics often climb over $5,000, so under $5,000 usually means private party hunting, sunburned paint, worn seats, cracked trim, or a seller who needs it gone. That is fine if the bones are solid. The manual version matters because it avoids automatic repair fear and gives you a direct, simple drivetrain. Parts are everywhere, fuel economy is strong, and every independent shop knows these cars. Why is it undervalued at this price? High miles scare casual buyers. Clear coat failure makes them look rough. Basic trims feel cheap, and not everyone wants to shift anymore. Street reality check. You are not getting a clean showpiece. Expect noisy wheel bearings, tired suspension, cracked sun visors, worn seat fabric, faded bumpers, and maybe a radio that looks like it survived a teenager. Known weak points are engine block cracking concerns on some early cars, motor mounts, wheel bearings, air conditioning issues, paint failure, and abused clutches. Check coolant loss or any overheating story. Test clutch engagement, and listen for bearing hum at 40 to 60 miles per hour. Also, inspect motor mounts by easing on and off the throttle in a low gear. If the engine rocks hard, budget repairs. The R18 can be a reliable little engine, but heat is its enemy. A Honda that overheats becomes a different car, and not in a good way. Adjust valves when needed and keep the cooling system perfect. I also want you to check the Civic for modification scars. A stock Civic with ugly paint is better than a shiny one with a cheap intake, cut springs, loud exhaust, and mystery wiring under the dash. Look for mismatched body panels, uneven gaps, and fresh paint on one corner, because these cars get bumped, raced, and patched. The manual should slide into gear without grinding, and the clutch should not grab at the very top like it is already tired. Insurance can be higher than for a Yaris or Echo, because Civic theft and young driver history follow the name, so quote it before buying. If the car stays cool, shifts clean, and has receipts, then the miles bother me less. Remember, under $5,000, patience wins. The best deal is rarely the first car you see, and desperation makes expensive mistakes look like bargains in ugly daylight on cracked pavement every single time. The next Toyota is slower, plainer, and cheaper to insure, which is exactly why it works. Number 3. Toyota Yaris, 2007 to 2011. Tiny car shame keeps the Yaris cheaper, simple, and strangely useful for buyers who hate payments. We want the 2007 to 2011 hatchback or sedan, base or S trim, with the 1.5-liter 4-cylinder, and either the 5-speed manual or 4-speed automatic. It is not quick, silent, or impressive. Good. That is why insurance usually stays calm, tires stay cheap, brakes stay cheap, and the engine lives an easy life. People skip it because it feels smaller than everything around it. Acceleration is lazy, the cabin is basic, and Corolla buyers act like the Yaris is beneath them. Under $5,000, expect high miles, loud highway noise, faded headlights, worn seats, weak paint, and a car that moves around when big trucks pass. That is street reality. You are buying low-cost survival, not comfort. The target range is $3,500 to $5,000 for higher-mile private party examples. Dealer cars often push higher, so under $5,000 means you accept cosmetic flaws, not mechanical lies. Why does it last? Low weight, Toyota's simple 1.5, no turbo, no continuously variable transmission, no luxury gadgets, and not enough power to tear itself apart. Known weak points are water pump seepage, belt noise, front suspension wear, peeling paint, clutch wear, and neglected cooling systems. Check coolant leaks, inspect tire wear and alignment, and test the clutch or automatic shift feel when warm. Also, check the spare tire well for moisture and the rear hatch for rust. On the drive, run it through a rough street, a straight highway pull, and one hard stop from neighborhood speed. The steering should feel light, steady, and predictable, not loose like a shopping cart. If the dashboard rattles, fine. If the temperature climbs, not fine. If the air conditioning weakens at idle, the price and cooling work. Fix water pump seepage early. Heat kills little engines faster than mileage. A clean Yaris should idle smooth, track straight, and stop without shaking. If it has mismatched tires, low coolant, and no records, walk away. Budget buyers should also remember that insurance and registration stay easier because the Yaris is old, light, and low value. That matters when the whole point is avoiding payments. Spend the saved money on fresh tires, brakes, and fluids, not seat covers or cheap speakers. The best ones have boring owners, factory wheels, clean fluids, and no drama. That is the whole point. You are not buying pride. You are buying a payment killer. The next one is shaped like a toaster, but it might be the most useful cheap Toyota box ever sold here. Number 2. Scion XB, 2004 to 2006. Boxy little Scion looks silly, square, and almost homemade until you realize it is Toyota simplicity with a cargo hole. The sweet spot is the 2004 to 2006 first-generation XB, stock-based cars only, not lowered tuner projects with cut springs and wiring done by somebody's cousin. Under the hood is Toyota's 1.5-liter 1NZFE 4-cylinder, backed by a 5-speed manual or 4-speed automatic. It shares the same basic Echo family bones, which means low power, low stress, cheap parts, and a drivetrain that does not need drama to survive. People ignore it because the shape is weird. Scion as a brand confuses buyers. Acceleration is slower, and plenty of these got modified badly when they were cheap. Under $5,000, expect faded paint, ugly wheels, old tint, rattles, sagging seats, scratched plastics, and maybe a stereo install that looks like a crime scene. Buy the boring one. The stock one. The one with factory wheels and normal tires. That is where the value lives. Known weak points include wheel bearings, exhaust leaks, power steering pump noise, valve cover seepage, worn suspension, clutch wear, rust, and hack job modifications. Avoid cut springs and hacked wiring. Check rust and accident repair, and test clutch or automatic behavior on a warm drive. Listen for bearing hum around 40 to 60 miles per hour, because cheap wheel bearings can make the whole car feel tired. Change oil on time, and keep valve cover leaks fixed. Small Toyota engines last, but only when the oil stays inside. Also, rotate tires, because a square little box with worn suspension can chew rubber fast. Street reality check. This is not a quiet cruiser. Wind noise is real, road noise is louder, and the ride can feel choppy over broken pavement. But the cabin space is hilarious for its size. You can load boxes, tools, folding chairs, dog crates, and grocery runs without needing a crossover. Check the rear hatch seals and spare tire well for moisture, because water leaks turn cheap cars stinky fast. Look under the dash for cut wires, alarm leftovers, and bad radio work. A clean stock XB is worth more than a flashy modified one every day. Insurance is usually low risk because the XB is slow, old, and not a fancy theft target, but quote it before buying anyway. It is not plush, but it is roomy, easy to park, and surprisingly practical for tools, groceries, dogs, and weekend junk. Do not pay cult money for a rough one. One more shop rule: never buy the loud one first. The XB rewards calm ownership. A stock exhaust, clean airbox, original ride height, and matching tires usually tell us the owner wanted transportation, not attention. That is exactly the buyer story we want under $5,000. It saves money and reduces repair stress later. Under $5,000, the XB must be mechanically solid first, cute second. And number one is the Honda that proves tiny does not mean useless. If this list saves you money, subscribe. We show reliable years, costly problems, and simple checks for buyers who hate car payments. Number 1. Honda Fit 2007 to 2008. Small Hondas fool people until they drive one, and the first-generation Fit is the tiny hatch buyers dismiss, then overpay for after they finally understand it. We want the 2007 to 2008 base or Sport, preferably manual, for the cheapest long-term ownership, though a clean 5-speed automatic can still work. The engine is a 1.5-liter 4-cylinder, and the whole car is built around low weight, smart packaging, and cheap running costs. It was never a premium car when new, and it should not be priced like one now. Under $5,000, reality gets rough. Expect high miles, seat stains, bumper scratches, hatch rattles, loud road noise, worn suspension, faded paint, and a car that has carried kids, dogs, tools, boxes, and half a garage. Clean fits often cost more than $5,000, so the under $5,000 buyer needs patience and a private sale mindset. Why does it last? Simple Honda engine, cheap parts, strong fuel economy, manual transmission option, low insurance profile, and interior space that makes bigger cars look stupid. The magic seat layout is not a gimmick. It turns a tiny hatch into a real utility tool. Known weak points include hatch leaks, water in the rear area, ignition coils, suspension wear, wheel bearings, air conditioning trouble, clutch wear, and ignored valve adjustments. Check hatch leaks, test clutch or automatic shifts, and listen for suspension clunks or bearing growl. Also, run the air conditioning at idle and watch the temperature. Open the hatch, lift the cargo floor, and touch the carpet. If it is damp, musty, or stained around the spare tire, you have a leak story. Drive it over cracked pavement and listen for a front-end knock. A cheap Fit often needs struts, sway links, or wheel bearings, And that is not the end of the world if you price it correctly. The manual should shift clean without grind, and the automatic should not flare or slam. Keep valve adjustments and ignition parts current. These little Hondas run best when the basics are handled before the engine starts complaining. A fit should feel alert, stable, and eager, not sloppy or overheated. Check for crash repair around the front bumper and radiator support, because tiny cars often get tapped and patched cheaply. I put the fit at number 1 because it is cheap to run, easy to park, shockingly useful inside, and still feels like a real car instead of a punishment. If you find one with records, dry cargo carpet, normal tires, and a calm owner story, move fast. That little Honda may save you from a payment for years, but do not get emotional. Under $5,000, even a Honda needs proof. No records, hot engine smell, wet hatch, slipping clutch, or glowing warning lights means you keep your cash. The fit wins because it does the daily job better than its size suggests, and it makes expensive cars look wasteful. Click the video on your screen next. We'll show cheaper cars everyone ignores until prices jump. Subscribe for reliable picks, smarter buying, and fewer repair regrets.